Hello, community, and welcome back to another Keeping It Real with Dr. Anita podcast, where we're talking about leadership, influence, and culture in ways that help you show up and stand out. I am so excited to have joining me my very special guest and dear friend, Dr. Mayra Austin, founder and CEO of Management Cues, an organization that focuses on training mid-level managers and tying that to neuroscience to make sure that training sticks and that change happens. Dr. Mayra, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'll be the resident troublemaker for today.
And that's why we're having you on. But before we go there, I think it's in order to give you your flowers and recognize you for an achievement at Westcliff University. Would you like to share that with our community?
Oh, thank you for highlighting that. So this year was the first year that I taught as a business professor at Westcliff University. And I just got through my evaluation, which, believe it or not, even though I've been in the workforce for over 2 decades, I was nervous. I was humbled by the experience. And if Professor DeVito happens to hear this, he was both my mentor and the professor that was evaluating me. And he was so gracious with his feedback and highlighting some of the things that I do different. It was a great experience. I'm glad I got through it, and I couldn't be more overjoyed. Teaching has been something that has filled my cup in tough seasons this year, for sure. So thank you for taking a moment to highlight that.
Absolutely. Dr. Mayra, I am so proud of you. I had the opportunity to audit one of your classes. You invited me to come and watch, and every now and then you give me the floor to share some thoughts with your students. The energy that you create in that room is definitely conducive to learning. So again, congratulations on such an achievement, especially your first year. I'm proud of you, and at the same time, not at all surprised.
Thank you.
All right, let's jump into the topic, community. We want to talk about the dismantling of DEI by our current administration and the fact that it's not based on laws and that businesses are not required to follow these things. Already, I know there's controversy all over the place, but believe it or not, it's true. And that's what we're going to be talking about from our 3 perspectives. First, of leadership. In our next conversation, it will be influence. In our third conversation, it will be culture. So, Dr. Mayra, give us your thoughts.
Well, I've learned a lot being an operator. I typically have taken on roles of operations leadership. So while I haven't necessarily had the opportunity to take on a full-on organizational development role or an HR professional role, to some degree I have, but not professionally throughout my entire career. What I have learned is that a lot of leaders fail to make some clear distinctions. And when we don't take the time to make those distinctions of what is happening and what it really means to our business or our environment or our people, we miss the boat. So I've experienced and have observed, have witnessed executives tiptoe on subjects like these way before the administration took over. And I would be the right hand or the left hand that would come in and would say, wait, what does this mean for us? Mm-hmm. And so I think the important caveat there is making clear distinctions between what we think is happening and what is actually happening is extremely critical, especially for executive leaders, because misinterpreting perception or how we feel can just lay waste to a company's environment, culture, how other people are feeling about what's happening. And I will say this, one thing that for me was critical this season was making the distinction between legislation and executive orders, for example, and whether that requires us to move into action or it's just setting precedents or does it even apply at a local level, at a state level? Those types of distinctions, I think, help us not only safeguard and protect our people, but risk mitigate for our business on the operational and financial side, right?
Yes.
I think Target comes to mind for me over and over as I think about making these distinctions.
Mm-hmm. I love the fact that you have used the word distinction several times and that you just concluded your thought talking about risk mitigation. In October, I'm going to be moderating a panel for board directors where we're talking about DEI and risk mitigation, reputation, and regulatory things that we need to be clear about whether or not we need to comply with. So, community, until we come back with Dr. Mayra and further this discussion specific to influence, here is Dr. Anita's post podcast prescription for you. Now, remember, I always want to encourage you to stop, start, do more of, or do less of something to help you put into practice something that you've heard today. And so, what I want to encourage you to do is stop framing DEI as operational or nice to have. Instead, reaffirm it as essential to leadership excellence and competitive advantage. These are the takeaways that I'm drawing away from what Dr. Mayra said, again, as your post-podcast prescription. Now, you know what I'm going to ask you to do. Our community is a learning community. So whatever thoughts that you want to share with your community as you repost this, please do so. And you don't necessarily have to agree, but let's keep the dialogue going because that is how we learn and grow. That is how we test our perceptions to see if they're real or perceived. Until next time, please stay in the flow with me, follow, like, and overshare any podcast that helps you develop leadership, inclusive influence, and cultures that matter. Stay blessed and keep it real.